Well, everyone, it is that time of year again.
It's time to duel!
No, not with any of that power of friendship bullshit, we're not. But seriously, folks, this isn't about card games, this is about Christmas. A time to give to those less fortunate. A time to spend with thy family and friends. A time to gather up around the fireplace, watch a nice holiday special, and sip on a delicious cup of cocoa. Now, me personally, I love Christmas. I love handing gifts out to my friends and family. I love decorating for the occasion. I love the atmosphere in which we can all come together just for one day and live in peace and harmony, even if it is all just an illusion distracting us from the fact that this is really about commercialism and greed, and people care more about presents and money than they do about the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. But you know what? Who cares? I'm just happy to know that for a few moments in time, people are not out there killing one another. Wait, what's that? They began restocking the PS5s? Oh, well, in that case.
You know the rules, and so do I. Say goodbye!
But you know what? Despite all this holiday cheer, there is always somebody that has to be the hole in the ass. Always somebody out there trying to ruin somebody's good time. And that somebody or somebodies, in this case, are Seth Rogen and Sarah Silverman with their new holiday, I wouldn't even call it a special, it's more like a, what would you call it, a skit? Yeah, a new holiday skit called Santa Inc. Now, what is Santa Inc, you might be asking? Well, that's the thing, I don't quite understand what the fuck it's supposed to be myself. But, from what I can gather from this trailer, it's about this bitch-ass feminist elf who wants to take over for Santa Claus. Why? Because for far too long, Santa Claus has been portrayed by a white man. I shit you not, that is the premise. I swear to God, getting through this trailer was one of the hardest things I have ever had to do in life. And it's not just that the show is woke, but it's supposed to be a comedy and it's just painfully unfunny and just straight up detestable. Like at one point in the trailer, the SJW elf is on screen and she says this.
Good news, sir. More American kids believe in you than they do in vaccines or the Holocaust.
That's great. I mean, disheartening for America, but great for us.
Now you see, you can tell they were trying to make a joke, but it's not a joke. There's no punchline. It's just a blanket statement, and a stupid ass statement at that. Like as far as the Holocaust goes, you get taught about that as early as middle school. Sure, the school systems aren't exactly the best spaces to get information from, but even they will teach you about the Holocaust to a certain extent. So that right there was just stupid. And as far as the vaccine for COVID-19, that is a proven failure because you can still spread the virus even if you're fully vaccinated, and you can still catch it too, you just may not catch it as quickly and it may not affect you as badly. And even these are just maybes, so at best you have a very thin layer of protection when it comes to the vaccine. And even the people behind the vaccine basically concede the fact that it is a failure because every time this motherfucker is on screen, he is always talking about people getting booster shots for the sake of quote-unquote protection, when no other vaccine in the history of history has ever needed people to get boosted for the initial vaccine to do its job. So if what that elf said is true, and kids are not believing in the vaccine, then those sound like some intelligent ass brats. If they're using their noggin to that degree, then they deserve some presents. But anyway, that one-liner was just completely unfunny and served no purpose whatsoever. There's also another scene where her friends are calling her a bitch because apparently now it's empowering to call a female a bitch. Which, I mean, wow, I didn't know that. I thought I was being respectful, but it turns out I was being disrespectful the whole time.
It's the perfect crime!
So to bitches everywhere, I'd just like to say I am sorry. I now understand what the term means to you, and therefore will use it in your honor.
I'm trying to find the words to describe this girl without being disrespectful.
But seriously though, I don't understand what type of humor they're going for when it comes to this show. Like it seems like they're just trying to get by with a lot of cursing, and pretty much every single character in this show curses, from the SJW elf to Santa Claus himself. Now don't get me wrong, cursing can be funny, especially when it comes from a character that you don't really expect it from. Like for example, if you heard Santa Claus cursing on Robot Chicken or Family Guy, you might find it hilarious. But in shows like that, a character like Santa Claus is used very sparingly, whereas this show, Santa Claus is front and center, and the thing is, everybody is cursing up a storm in this show, and it feels very forced and all around unnecessary, so it comes across as needless and, as I said before, unfunny. And it's not just because Seth Rogen and Sarah Silverman are terrible comedians, which they are, but the show itself is just a bad, tasteless show. Like, one time in the trailer, there is an elf who flashes her titties at Santa Claus. And I'm not talking about a sexy looking elf like Tariel in the Hobbit films. No, I'm talking little kid looking elf flashing little kid looking genitalia Santa Claus's way. Now I understand that they're elves and therefore they're probably much older than what they appear to look like, but the fact that they made the elf look like that and have her do something like that is what bothers me. Like, to give you some perspective here, chances are you've never had any desire to see Rukia from Bleach naked in any way whatsoever. Though you probably wouldn't mind seeing somebody like Yoriichi naked, not only because she's the sexier one of the two, but also because Yoriichi looks to be a grown woman. And even though Rukia is a grown woman as well, who's actually 150 something, she still looks like a girl who is 14 to 15 years old. And so what I'm getting at here is that if you make a fictional character, especially in animated form, where you can prevent a lot of this stuff from happening, and you purposely make them look younger than what they are, and then have said character show off their genitalia, then to me, you are no better than a pedophile. Because it's disgusting, and this served no purpose aside from Seth Rogen having that joke about, oh, you're on my naughty list now. Boy, what a shit show. Also, why does Mrs. Claus look like fucking Hillary Clinton? Did anybody else notice that? Like, I don't know if that was intentional or not, but yikes. Mrs. Claus has seen better days and also better depictions. But anyway, one thing that I actually did find funny about the show, and I don't mean funny haha, I mean like funny ironically, is that Sarah Silverman's character is getting all pissy that Santa Claus has only been a white guy up until this point, but Santa Claus was based off of an actual white guy in real life. Ever hear of Saint Nicholas? The real Saint Nicholas? For those of you that don't know, the actual Saint Nicholas was a Christian bishop who was extremely wealthy. He was also a very generous man who would share his wealth among children and those who were less fortunate, giving away toys or bags of gold whenever he could. And whenever somebody tried to catch him in the act, he'd just leave it down the chimney. And while the story of Santa Claus has been heavily tweaked since then, the myth of Santa Claus primarily began with the original Saint Nicholas. And so, for all intents and purposes, Santa Claus has always been a classically white figure. So I mean, it kind of makes sense that a white guy is Santa. That would be like bitching that Superman has always been portrayed by a white dude in media when Superman himself is white. Now the show makes it seem like the role of Santa Claus is more of a job position than an actual person, but I feel like the only reason it's like that is because they want to make multiple jokes at the expense of white people for being white. But remember, it's not racism because you cannot be racist towards white people. It's impossible. Just ask the critical race theory doctors. They'll tell you all about it. Now some folks might say that I'm being too harsh. After all, it is just a trailer and you haven't seen the show, so maybe it's a good show. Oh my misguided friend. Let's see if Rotten Tomatoes agrees with your sentiment. Now I understand that Rotten Tomatoes is a shit site, but let's look at the score anyway. You see that right there? Not even in the double digits. Now I understand Rotten Tomatoes isn't the site that it used to be, but still, I gotta say, when you are lagging behind The Last Airbender, that is when you know you fucked up. Like honestly, it is a shame that we can't even get decent Christmas content without it being woke as a joke, or lack thereof in this case. Hopefully this is where it ends with the woke mafia trying to abolish Christmas with their poisonous agenda, but only time will tell because after all, we know these people are insane and they are relentless, which is why we cannot afford to give them an inch. If there is one line that we should hold at all costs, it is the Christmas line. But let me know what you guys think. Have you seen the Santa Inc trailer? Do you plan on watching it on HBO Max? Or do you have far better things to do with your time, like, oh, I don't know, anything else? As always, if you liked anything I had to say, don't forget to hit the like and click subscribe. Also, follow me on these social media platforms. You wouldn't want to commit treason now, would you?